Anybody over here, just to be fair? Yes, right there is fine.
Madam Secretary, is that the right way to address it?
Madeleine works. And global warming is something that is out there that ultimately we will all fry to death, so it would be useful to think about it. It's hard to explain. And the truly honest people in this will not say that the fact that there is a flood is directly a result of global warming or a typhoon. But we know that something is happening. And last summer, I went up to the Arctic. I went on an icebreaker off of the coast of Norway, practically up to the North Pole. And the thing that surprised me was that it took about 2 days of sailing already from a place called Svalbard, which is very far up in the Norwegian archipelago, before we hit heavy ice. Which means that the Arctic is very accessible, which also means that there is more and more shipping across the Arctic, and you actually see everything melting. And you see polar bears trying to jump from one small piece of ice to another. The part that I found very hard is the food chain is inexorable, and you actually don't know whose side to be on because the polar bears are eating the seals. But the bottom line is you can see this all happening, but it is not like something immediate that affects us like unemployment. And so it is very hard. I do think, I find passing strange that there are still people who don't think there's any scientific evidence to this, and that they run for office. The thing that's most important is, first of all, you have to begin in some way, which is where the pins help, really beginning some kind of a conversation that puts you in a position where you understand what the other person is like. A lot of it does have to do with personal relationships. The hard part is if you actually like the person that you're negotiating with and you disagree with them, but you have to be able to go forward with it. But the most important thing about negotiation is to understand and put yourself into the other person's shoes. Because unless you know what their interests are, while maintaining a very strong aspect of knowing what your interests are, you can't make a deal. And so you have to create your own red lines about things that you will not go over, try to establish what their negotiating red lines are, and then look for compromise. But I think it's very hard to have made the initial contact so that you know what the person is like. And then I would go someplace and I'd say, I have come a long way, so I must be frank. And then I would kind of go into what I thought. But the personal relationships are important. What is interesting is I did develop such good friends that I created a group now of former foreign ministers. It has a lot of different names, but my favorite is Madeleine and her exes.
Right here in the front row.
Hi. I was just wondering what advice you might have for young women who want to go into politics.
Well, basically, I think that you should do it, because I so believe in public service and in putting yourself out there. If I have one regret, it is not ever having run for public office. And it's only because I don't know, I live in Washington, D.C., and it's a little hard from there, and even though I have a farm in Virginia, I'm not there often enough, and I grew up in Colorado, so it is a little hard, but I do think that it's worth doing. If you're going to do it, however, you have to have a very thick skin. And in any high-level office, I say now, at the time, if I go back and if you look at this exhibit, you'll see I'm quite fat, that I had to develop a thicker skin. But I think it is worth doing, and it is how democracy works. And if people that are smart and dedicated don't run for public office, then you don't have the kind of caliber of representation. I also think that you can't start at the top. You do really have to go out and work in campaigns for other people and see how you organize and then develop kind of working your way up from the bottom. But I think it is difficult but ultimately very satisfying.